And we are live! Hello, everybody. Welcome to that wonderful, wonderful podcast. Those aren't biscuits. I am your friend, Owen Adams, and with me is your other friend, Jonathan Cadotte. This is a live stream and also uploaded later on, months from now, podcast that you can find on the internet where we talk about movies, comics, weird things growing out of our feet, and all sorts of stuff. It's a good show, isn't it? Say hello, John. Hi, John. How you doing?
Hey, how's it going? I'm doing all right. No things growing on my feet today, except for toes.
Are they still growing at this point?
Well, the toenails, maybe.
You're like the man with the 40-foot toes. They just won't stop growing. At this point, he's like 80%
it's
toe.
A curse. It's a curse.
Becomes an Olympic swimmer. Finally, I found my calling.
Yeah, I take 2 strokes, I'm there.
You're right. Well, eventually you are, in fact, wider than the Olympic pool.
Well, but like they don't like keep like the structural strength, so they break all the time. Just
eventually, you've got like the webbing, you know, like when you see like bats or like gargoyles. Remember the TV show Gargoyles?
Yeah.
You just get some super glue and just get a really thin strand across it and be like, I can fly with my feet. Got off to a good start today, didn't we? How you doing, John?
Behold me as I soar through the air, and I took a wrong turn. No.
You're gonna run the whole
I'm doing
time, like Roadrunner, but with your giant web feet.
My feet just spin around in circles. This that sound or whatever.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
I can believe with that. And hello in the chat to all chaos. Welcome. Nice to see you, man.
Yeah. Hi.
If you are new here, we are a podcast, as I say. We do take questions from the chat here and there. But mostly it's a talk show. Submit your questions, drop in, say hello. All those beautiful things. If you are watching after the fact, if you're listening to the stream after the fact, this was originally done as a live stream, so you might hear us occasionally reference the chat and stuff, but it's still pretty much the same show. And on the subject of the after the fact things, I just uploaded a bunch of the ones, well, that was last week, a bunch of the ones that we were behind on. I've actually got another couple to come up. The only issue is when you run a podcast, you run into hosting limitations, so I can only upload a certain amount per month. Catching up, but every so often we miss an episode for whatever reason, so bit by bit, we'll get those caught up. I'm getting them up as fast as it's technically possible to do, just in case anybody's wondering what's going on there. That's pretty much everything. How are you this week, John? Tell me about your week.
Oh, my week was pretty good. Work went pretty well. It went pretty quick. I did go out on Saturday night, which has kind of become a thing for me. My crippling alcoholism is just getting worse. That's a joke, people. I literally only drink once a week, and even then I don't drink that much.
Well, I mean, technically it is still getting worse, you know.
Sure. Sure. But so I actually didn't plan on going out. Oh shit! I forgot. I actually went out twice this week.
The sounds, the conversations of young men having exciting lives. Oh shit, I went out twice this week. Take that, Richard Branson.
Right? Just globe-trotting. No, the first night I went out was actually pretty fun. I went to the local brewery here in town, and they had a band playing, and they had a little tap room open, so you can go in there, and it's all like craft microbrew beer. So in my head, I'm thinking craft beer is generally a little bit heavier. It's a little bit more intense to drink.
Right. Plus, it's full of mac and cheese.
But the old style mac and cheese with the actual orange powder, not this new shit that doesn't have color. Right? I swear, they took that color out. It tastes way different.
This is craft beer, bitches.
Cheezosaurus Rex, motherfuckers. But so I'm thinking like, okay, I can go and have a few. I'll sip them down, and they had a band playing. I'll listen to the music, have a good time. You can't possibly pound these beers back. Wrong. I've discovered that is wrong. Before I knew it, I'm sitting there going, oh no. Just like, that moment where you just take that one more drink, and it's like, oh shit. I have gone too far.
I know it perfectly, because I am, well, as the people who've heard our drunk podcast will know, I am heavy, and so I don't feel my alcohol for a while, you know what I mean? I'm one of those people where there is a definite tipping point, and it is unpredictable, but then when it comes, I'm drunk. Just flips like a switch for me. That's why I can't drink too much, because I have no way of psychologically measuring when that's coming.
Well, it also didn't help that the band I was playing was doing a lot of... they're kind of like... I don't know how to describe them, really. The band's called 10 Sows and Bucks. So 10 SOWS and BUCKS, right? It's a pun.
Were there 10 pigs in the band?
Yeah, that was the fascinating thing. Like, I don't even know how they held their instruments, with cloven hooves. But they play like Irish folk songs, and punk music. When
you say it like that, you make it sound like they don't do it at the same time.
Oh, they do, and that's what I was trying to get across. They kind of lean more to the heavier side of the Irish, like the Pogues rather than the Dubliners.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But they were really favoring the drinking songs, which I felt kind of bad about, because that is such a stereotype about the Irish people, is all the drinking. But I guess if you're gonna play at a brewery, you play the drinking songs, because that's what we're all there for anyways.
You expect them to come up and... I was going to say do an anti-drinking song, but I don't think there are actually as many of those.
Right. Do they exist? Just
go over go, down with beer.
I knew a teetotaler, and I loved her so dear. But,
I just spent all my money on whiskey and beer.
Oh no, and I didn't spend my money on whiskey and beer. Instead, I bought Bibles and flowers for her.
And we're both sober, it's better this way.
Really trying to force that rhyme on. It's better this way.
Alistair, you know all the best rhymes come when I've been drinking.
We're doing an anti-drinking song.
I can't get out my rhyming whiskey.
They don't know that.
It's subtext.
When I drink this whiskey, I feel like I can fly. It only happens when I drink the rye. See? I told you. So, yeah. I drank a little bit too much that night. It also doesn't help, all right? There was a lot of factors playing into me drinking that night. 1, at a brewery. 2, Irish drinking song. 3, turns out it was the last day of school. And so a lot of my old high school teachers showed up. And nothing makes you want to drink more than hey Jonathan, you used to write a lot back in high school. You still doing that? No. Oh, did you ever finish college? No. So what are you doing right now? I'm just working.
Hey John, I hear you used to work at that shitty casino. What's going on these days?
Still working at the shitty casino. But we're having a renovation right now, so it's pretty nice. No, there's actually a lot worse places to work. I can't complain about my job.
I wouldn't dream of actually criticizing your job unless it was funny.
So yeah, like after 3 of those conversations, it's just like, fuck it. just like, you want to be more disappointed in me? Watch me now. Glug, 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 glug. How do you let me down?
You believed in me, Mrs. Gorsky, and I just vomited on your shoes. I've given you a teacher called Mrs. Gorsky who believed in you. I know that's stretching the truth, I'm sure, but,
right. Yeah, none of my teachers believed in me. You told me to pursue my dreams? Well, my dream is to hit on your wife. So.
How's this for a dream? You told me to pursue my dreams, which is why tomorrow I'll be in your class wearing no pants.
There better be that pink dinosaur in the corner, or I swear to God you'll fail me as a teacher. So yeah, that happened. Next night, I didn't plan on going out. I didn't. But it was like the last 5 minutes of work, and I'm on my way out, and a friend of mine passes me by and goes, "Hey, we're going out tonight, Jonathan. You want to come with?" Sure. Very rarely do a lot of my friends from work all get to go out at like the same time. So I was like, okay, well this is
know about.
That they invite me to.
No, we better ask him. Yes.
He's right there. But so I decided to go out, and we end up actually going to a strip club, which honestly has really kind of lost its flair for me. Like, I think strip clubs are definitely like a early drinking day thing. Like, when you first start to drink, that's when strip clubs are exciting. But once you get up to, like, I'm almost 30. Like, I know what to expect. Like, I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna see naked women. They're gonna try to flirt. I know they don't mean it. I'm gonna pay too much for my drinks.
Are you telling me that at a strip club you just don't go to read old Garfield and Calvin and Hobbes issues? They have naked women there. I'm appalled.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I was surprised too. When they said we're going to the titty bar, I thought we were going to go bird watching.
I have, in fact, never been to a strip club. There was one in the town I lived in. I've never had the inclination.
I shut it down. They wouldn't let me in.
Took it down from the inside. But I'd never, without going inside, was working the tax angle.
No, I would say strip clubs are an experience that I think people should have. Because it definitely gives you context for things. Because in my experience, there's generally at least one person there who is really into being at the strip club. Like this is like a banner day for them.
Uh-huh.
And when you see that person, it's like, you know what? This ain't so. My life's not so bad. Like I have a much firmer grasp on social interactions than this guy does. So it's like,
I like that. Going to a strip club. This is you. Your direct words from your mouth that going to a strip club is an experience everyone should have. So that they can look at the people enjoying this strip club and realize that their life isn't going so bad.
It's not just enjoying the strip club, okay? That's the difference. Like, I can enjoy a strip club. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy naked women. All right?
I just like the idea. Sorry, I just like the idea of you going into a strip club all casual, like, stood up against the wall, sharing glances with the strippers, like, this guy, look at him, And they're all backseat like, the fucking weirdo who thinks he's one of us is back. Keeps throwing me his car keys and telling me he'll take me away from all this.
He's played Roll Me Away by Bob Seger 18 times.
Right!
We don't even have a jukebox. Like, he's just sitting there with his cell phone out playing that song. No, I mean, what I mean is, like, not just enjoying it, right? But, like, when going to the strip club is, like, suddenly, like, the pinnacle of your life, like, those people, right? Like, that's the people you gotta look out for, But that's not the end of the story, all right?
Cadotte, strip police.
I also got kicked out of the strip club.
Hey! The story's looking up.
What?
The story's looking up.
Oh, okay. So, now, the funny thing is nothing that I actually did. Right? It was a group that we were with. There was one girl that was with us who, right from the get-go, was gone. Like, she was out of it already. And it's like, okay, well, we'll go to the strip club. You don't have to drink. You can just sit down. We'll all have a good time. You've clearly already had your good time, and you are fucking gone. Like, she was just, like, slurring her words already and saying just nonsense. And it was like, okay. Well, what we find out is that this person is actually taking some pills with her drinks.
Oh, good.
And, yeah, I was like, oh, Jesus Christ. And, like, I thought I was done dealing with this shit back in, like, when I was 22. And, so, I'm like, you know what? I'm not even gonna bother. Just gonna go off my own with me and a couple other guys. We're just gonna go off, and you all have fun with her. We're gonna be over here, and we're minding our own business. And they have like a little smoking lounge, so we go in there. We're having a cigarette, and next thing I know, one of the other girls that we're with comes in and goes, "Yeah, we gotta go." Like, what do you mean we gotta go? Like, we've only been here for like an hour. Like, I didn't even really want to come here in the first place. We could have spent this hour drinking at a bar where the drinks are cheaper, and I'd be much more drunk then.
Pay attention,
so why
everybody.
Do we have to go now?
Pay attention, everybody, to the role John casts himself in this story. He didn't even want to go to the strip club. He was not involved with the person taking pills. It's all very convenient, wouldn't you say? All very...
Hey, sometimes you get lucky.
It's the least seedy story about going to a strip club.
Well, I guess what had happened is that finally the pills came back on her, and they reacted poorly, and she ended up throwing up all over the place, right?
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Because that's what you want, when you're... when you're in, a temple of hedonism, a bit of vomit is sort of par for the course, right? Like...
Well, what was funny is when we got there, we were going to sit down at the rail, where the dancers are, and someone stopped us and goes, "Hey, I want to sit in those seats." Some guy was just here, he threw up all over the place. 1 hour later, we're now being escorted out because the one...
As you were leaving, you're like, who was that guy who told us to not sit there? It was convenient, wasn't it? And the doorman was like, oh, you mean Larry Nostradamus? He just appeared last week. Where's he gone? He was just standing right here.
He never stays around long. He makes a prediction and leaves. He's the hero that strip club deserves, but not the one it needs. So yeah, that was kind of mine. After that, I was just like, fuck this, I'm going home.
Sorry, don't we have any other stories? As you left, you saw your group decided to participate in a mugging but you were too good for it, and you decided to rescue the mugging victim and take them home. And on their way, there was a fire, upon which you entered to rescue a small dog.
Mm-hmm. Okay, make fun of my stories all you want, all right? But why don't you belay us with your recent tale of another broken appliance? Woo! Can't wait for this.
Okay, so I'm loading my fridge in a strip club, and
oh, I'm glad it's that way, not loading your fridge with a stripper.
Well, do you know what? That might be how I broke it in the first place. I can't be sure.
Just overloaded it. I think that capacitor can only handle so much glitter.
Don't be so cold, baby.
Like
went to a bad place.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, Mr. Freeze level pun right there.
What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age. Should we do a few questions?
Chill out.
I could tell you my interesting story, I suppose. I don't have that interesting a story, but I could tell you my story after we do some questions. Should we do questions? Questions?
Sure. Yeah.
We got some questions. I believe this is directed to you.
Okay.
Rick Toffin 0527 says, "What kind of work do you do? What kind of work do you do, John?"
Me, I work at a casino. I don't know. I could go more into it. It's not all that thrilling.
He's one of the chips.
I work. Yeah, they just throw me on a table. I'm worth $5.
There's 10% if you claim to be 10. 10.
I'm 10. No, I work with the slot machines. That's basically my job. It pays well. It's an interesting it's an interesting place to work if you work there, right?
It's not an interesting place if you don't work there, because people keep saying, "What are you doing here? Please leave. You don't work here.
You're not allowed back here." How many times do we have to tell you this? Right?
It's so boring. People repeatedly asking me to leave the building and not tell people I work there. Worst job I've ever not had. The next question was...
sucks.
The next question was, Owen, how did your job interview go? I'm going to get to that. It's my story. Rick Toffin said, "If those aren't biscuits, what are they?"
That's the secret, isn't it? That's the great question of...
Yeah. All right, that's all. I thought we had more questions. We don't. So
I don't know. Have we told the story of how we came up with that name?
Probably. You want to tell it again? You can do it. I don't mind.
Do you remember how we came up with that name?
Yeah, I do. Vaguely. I remember we didn't have a name for a long time.
Right, yeah, because we had scheduled to record, and then we realized it was like 2 or 3 days beforehand that we did not have a name for the show. And there's a very, very long conversation going back and forth about what the name should be. And I want to say, I think the name actually references a argument or conversation that we had
right
during the early days of us communicating with each other, like on Messenger. Because if you don't know, everyone, there is a linguistics difference between the UK and America, right? And it references biscuits. So, for all the UK people over there, you know what biscuits are. They're like little snacky, crisp things, right?
No.
Or cookies. They're fucking cookies. I was trying to avoid using our word for it, but they're fucking cookies. All right?
Yeah.
Over here, when you say biscuit, we do have the cookie-like biscuit, but it's very rare, and I think those are usually imported anyways. What over here though, when you reference biscuits, you usually talk about like these kind of thicker, flakier, not sweet, usually kind of savory things. They're I don't know. Do you even call them pastries? I don't even know what the proper word for it is. But they're much different than the British biscuit. So therein lied the kind of in-joke for us. Owen's British, I'm American. We can both say accurately to each other that those aren't biscuits.
Hooray!
Yay!
I suppose the reason we don't talk about it that much is it's really not that interesting. But, yeah. There you go. The full story.
Mm-hmm. The dark truth behind the name.
Do 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 do. Very exciting. All right.
So yeah, you got a story for us, huh?
I do. I had a job interview this week. It's
Okay.
kind of interesting. I'll tell you a little bit about it. I don't think I've got the job, but I haven't definitely 100% heard that I haven't got the job yet. So if I do have the job, ignore anything bad I say. I applied for a job with a local charity. I'm not going to go into any much detail about who they are, aside from to say it's an animal charity. And the job was to... I got a job interview. Did I just say I've got a job? I got a job interview. Don't want to... And the interview was for a position of sales and managing of their eBay page. They have an eBay page where they take stock from the local charity shops, and they run on the eBay page and they sell it. And I applied for this job.
And they need someone to do that?
Yeah, well, someone's got to do it, you know?
Right, okay.
I guess.
I feel like that's something you just make the intern do. Like,
I got the sense it had started off like that, and it was getting bigger, so they were going to have someone do it like 3 days a week, right?
it feels like, hey, Gerald, make sure that you wash and brush all those dogs today, and then go check out the eBay page. Like,
I get the feeling.
Like to me.
I get the feeling what was going on was it had started as a small project and then ended up earning more money than the shops. So they like one of the things was they wanted to keep like a minimum of 7 pages of stuff. So they had plenty of stuff to sell. Anyway, so I applied for this job and I didn't expect to get it. And because I didn't expect to get it, I was just trying to practice. It's been a while since I did job interviews and stuff. The YouTube channel is going really well at the moment. It's not earning as much money as the job that I was doing before did, but it's earning enough that I don't really need to worry too much. But I also, it's working from home. It's very insular. I was like, you know what? I need to keep applying. So I applied for it mostly just to get an application and get a little bit of practice, right? And I'm like, I'm not going to get this. So I'm reading through the job description, and most of it's stuff I can do. It's computer literacy stuff, all that, you know. But there's a lot of stuff about, like, experience.
It was the literacy part that hurt you, right?
Computer literacy, I can do that. There's a lot of stuff about, like, specific stuff involving sales, but I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to get it anyway. I'll write it up and I'll make it sound as good, and it's good practice, you know. It's good practice to write a job interview and try and be, because I suck at that whole thing. Write a thing and make yourself sound really good.
It's good practice to lie on your resume.
No.
just a general good practice. Is that what you're trying to tell us?
No, not lying. I just
you heard him here first, kids. You go out and just lie and lie and lie to your possible employers. It won't come back to hurt you eventually. No.
My idea was not to lie, but I'm not good at, like, selling myself. So I was like, I want to get a good, confident-sounding application. But I did mention things. I wasn't expecting to get it all. So I did mention things that I was like, well, if they question me on this, it's not going to be as applicable as it sounds the way I've written it here. I was like, I run an online merchandise store through a third-party print-on-demand seller. And I'm like, I was like, I'll leave off the fact that I've sold exactly 1 t-shirt. You know, it's true. And that was to a friend who gave it to me. So So I was like,
just bring the T-shirt with you. Be like, here,
hey.
and this is my sales.
So I wrote that. I wrote about the time I was part of a website publishing comics, and we put together a volume for sale. I didn't mention that it was kind of a disastrous project and things like that. I put in, things to make me sound good. And I submitted it. I was like, there we go. I'm not going to get it, but I need this practice with these applications, so when jobs come along I really do want to do, I can do it. And I played up the fact that I run an online business, and it's my own, I'm self-employed, and I'm good at dealing with the public all day, all this stuff. The next day, I get an offer for this interview. Like that letter came so quickly, they must have seen my application and been like, this is the guy. We are having him. And my first thought is, oh shit. So.
Oh, fuck. Beth finds you weeping. The lies! I've been tangled up in all the lies.
Right. Like, if this was like, like those episodes of Sherlock, or like, or an Alfred Hitchcock movie where it all comes together at the end, I'd have been the guy broken down in the first act. Like, I can't take it anymore. I want out, Jimmy. We gotta get out of this game.
You come in for your first day, just immediately break down. Like, all right, so here's the password to the eBay account, and you just, no, I can't do it anymore. I can't do it. All right, you deserve better.
I haven't sold a thing. I thought eBay was a type of cheese. So I get this offer.
What?
I get this offer, and I've got it. I'm like, well, I've got the thing. I haven't been for a job interview in ages. I'm feeling nervous, and I'm like, well, I got to go and do it because it's been a while since I did them. If I want to apply for jobs in the future, feeling this kind of nervous about it is not good. I'm not going to get it. I got to go and at least do it, right? But I am very like, I've got a lot of anxiety as a person. I'm in overdrive. I'm really like, whoo. But I've also got kind of other stuff on, so I also don't get an amazing amount of prep done for this interview because I was quite busy. Like the day before I go, I've really done nothing to really get this interview. So I decide to go, and the job interview says like full driver's license desirable, but not required, right? So I'm like, okay, I can get there on the bus. It's fine. So I take the bus.
If there's anything you have experience with is not being desirable.
I take the bus, and then I take the second bus to get there. And when I get to it, it's like in the middle of nowhere. And I'm following the GPS on my phone, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm in some. I was expecting it to be kind of like in a town. Do you know what I mean? Like not on the high street, but in a relatively urban area. But I get to it,
all right,
and I'm at the end of a housing estate that then comes upon a wood, like a forest. There's this tiny little dirt path, and I'm like, okay, well, I could go behind me into these houses, or I could go into Red Riding Hood's forest, and hope for the best. And I'm like, okay, it's.
Did you hear banjos emitting from the forest?
Right. And the other problem is,
you looking for the animal shelter.
The other problem is, because it was in a town, I was like, okay, well, I can be a little bit early, right? Because there'll be a shop somewhere. I can go get something to drink. I can sit down. I can think about it. But when I get that, there's nothing. This is in the middle of nowhere, and I'm like an hour early. So I'm like, okay, well, I might as well walk down the path to nowhere. And I'm like, okay, it's an animal center, therefore, presumably, it's going to be like that would make sense if it was in the middle of the woods, right? So I walk, and I'm going down this little street.
Did they not tell you what kind of animals they had? Like, are there like giraffes and like roaming lions about?
Look at the little voice.
We have to keep them away from the public for their own protection.
There's like a giant fence. A little voice says, "If you look to the left, you'll see Dilophosaurus, which went extinct during the Cretaceous period."
You walk in, like, oh, this is a pretty nice place. Dun, 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 dun. Holy shit.
So eventually it becomes clear I'm on the right road. It's in the middle of nowhere, but I'm on the right road. And I'm like, okay, like, I know they said I don't need a car, but if I can't drive, this is going to be a very strange job to do, because... and at this point, I still don't really know what they really want the driving license for, you know? So I go in and I go to reception and I'm like, hey, I've got a job interview in 45 minutes. And I'm like, well, I could wait, but like the sun's bearing down on me. It's an unbelievably hot day. And there's a road that goes through this forest full of trees all the way and no shade. Like, so I'm like, okay, well, I can go out there and be like, and dehydrate and come in like I've been lost in the Sahara, or I can I'll be like, I know I'm early.
Clothes just rend from your body.
Right.
Just like...
lips cracked. My shirt ripped, forming a little shaded headgear. Just
holding onto a conch shell. Just like...
Wilson! So I go in and I'm like, okay, like I got this job interview today. I'm 45 minutes early.
I just love that your fear of the wilderness and like kept you, or made you go 45 minutes early.
Right, but I'm also
I could be annoyingly early, or I can enjoy nature for a bit.
I'm also amazingly like nervous as I'm like in massive social anxiety mode, so I'm like, okay, if I sit by this tree for 5 minutes, I'll fall asleep and be late or something. It'll all go wrong. So I go in and I'm expecting to be taken to like an interview room or something like that, right? Or some place to wait. I don't expect them to see me early, but like surely someone will like offer me a glass of water or something like this. But they show me to this room, and it's in it's a little, obviously a little reception room before they let you into the main areas. There's a lock on the door outside and a lock on the next door. So, and this room is
it's where they euthanize the dogs.
Right, it's like the size. There's 3 chairs. There's the Branch magazine, which is the least interesting magazine you have ever seen in your life. Trust me. And it's full of windows.
Exposés on branches.
So now I'm sat in...
Unfold the centerfold, like, look at that oak beauty.
Yeah. No, it's all stuff like, why don't you adopt this dog? And then on the back, there's, like, information about the eBay page, and I'm like, oh, I should devour this, because I've done, like, no other prep. This will come in with some useful information. So... but this room, right, it's tiny. It's on one side, it's all windows aimed at the sun. There's no ventilation. And I'm like, and it's hotter than the outside, so I'm getting really hot. And I'm like, and I realize like I'm not sweating at all. So I'm obviously like massively dehydrated. I'm so nervous. My mouth is really dry. I was the most nervous I've been for a long time. And then eventually a sort of calm came over me. I was like, okay, I'm here now. I'm just gonna get through it, you know. And they see me in, and...
I just like to imagine, like, oh, hello, Owen, nice to meet you. Yeah, my name's Janice. How's it going?
Great!
It's just a pile of dust when she walks in. Like, all right, we can talk. Oh my god! Just, your glasses, your shirt, and then dust.
I've taken all my clothes off and I'm leaned against the radiator off, like precious dissipation.
Please put on your clothes. What? You deal with naked things all the time. That dog's not wearing any pants. That cat doesn't have a shirt on. What makes me so different, okay? You want a guy like me. I'm trying to get into their heads, man.
So the woman comes down to see me and she's like, okay, I'll be with you. And I'm like, don't worry, I know I'm early. It's fine, you know, right? And then there's like 45 minutes to wait. And I know that they see me before my interview time. They must have been up there like, well, okay, he's come 45 minutes. It's all his fault, but we can't make him wait 45 minutes, you know? That's too weird. Him just sitting down there, like maybe he's gonna, you know, we don't want him taking clothes off and touching the radiator. We've had that before, so.
And we forgot to wash it last time.
So they take me up to see me, and And at first it's
Take
going...
you up to see you?
Oh, sorry, they take me to see them. And at first it's going okay.
Behold, a mirror.
At first it's going okay. They ask me a little bit about myself and what I do, and I talk, and I this is the thing I found in my life. Whenever I'm nervous about something, I am totally Mr. Social Anxiety. I make all these stupid decisions. My mind's running in overdrive. But when it comes to the punch and I have to do it, my brain switches to a different place. You know what I mean? And so I get in the zone and the interview's going okay. I'm selling myself. I think I start to sound good. And it seems to be going okay. And then they start asking me specifically about selling things and dealing with customers, right? And I'm like, okay, well, I will just draw on my Sainsbury's experience. And I'm bringing these things up. And I gradually become aware that each of my stories, every time they come up with an example for something, it sounds interesting, but it ends in either a criticism of a customer, a criticism of the company I used to work for, or like a really bad resolution to everything when nobody's happy. So it gradually becomes aware. I look like...
So the little girl is crying, and I think that means I'm the kind of guy that you need.
Right. That was almost exactly what it was. Right, like I told a story about the time I had to get angry at a customer who broke a light bulb. I couldn't, off the top of my head, like I couldn't think of... I was so struggling to think of a story that ended well for me and didn't, right?
And then I jabbed the broken end into his neck.
And then one of the at one point the one of the women interviewing me casually mentioned that her husband worked for the supermarket company I used to work for. So I was like, oh good, this is gonna go down well. So after it starts to become a little bit awkward, it starts to become a little bit, like, okay, I've totally run out of things to say. And one of the interviewers, and there were two people interviewing me. One of the women who like ran the building, and then the other one was the other woman who does the job I was applying for currently. And she starts asking a lot more, a lot of questions that start with, just to go back to, and could you specifically... And I'm like, you know what? I'm getting the feeling I'm not who they're looking for here, And anyway, it goes through. It's a little bit awkward. This is not even the most embarrassing bit of this story, by the way. After the interview is when my day got worse. So this story is a little bit longer than I intended, but it was a funny day. So
right.
The interview ends, and they ask me if I have any questions about the job. I ask the question I've been mostly thinking about, which is, they said driving was desirable but not essential. I don't drive. What does that mean? And they said that, the job is going to local stores, finding the stuff they've got, trying to find the best stuff, and taking it back to list it on the eBay pages, right? And if you don't drive, you got to wait for van drivers to take you back out. You got to make your own way back. Fair enough. And then she says, but is there anything you want to ask specifically about the role, like, and the responsibilities and things like that? And I'm like, okay, I've been through this before. All the interview prep says, if they ask you any questions, come up with questions. It makes you look interested. It's good, right? And it suddenly occurs to me, I know nothing about the job they really want me to do. I didn't read any of the information that much. I didn't... And I'm like... And I don't think there's any question I could ask without revealing that I don't know that much about the job I'm applying for.
So when do I start?
So I just said... No, it's okay. I think I know what I'm applying for. And she just went, I would hope so. And I was like, shit. She knows.
She's on to me.
Jump out of the window.
Kill
Run away. Born free. And then she says, I get up and they tell me, well, I'll tell you what, we're going to decide by the end of the next day. And we're going to phone that person directly. And then we're going to write to everyone else. So it'll be a couple of days before you find out. That was 5 days ago. No letter, no calls. I didn't even get a letter. They were like, there was a guy. No, not that guy. So then I'm
leaving.
leaving.
Write a letter? No.
Yeah. Why? We told him he would. He told us he knew about selling. So
He told us he knew when the interview started, and look at him, 45 minutes early.
So then I'm going home, and I'm in the middle of nowhere. Still haven't anything to drink. Still haven't anything to eat. And I walk to the first bus stop, which is just at the end of the road. And I look up how long this bus is going to be. And it says it's going to be 20 minutes. And there's a little pub. And I'm like, okay, well. And I look at the next bus stop. And the next bus stop, it says, is further along. And it says, 25 minutes, something like that. And then further away, there are buses stops. Because I'm on the Google Maps thing. Further away, there are bus stops with more regular buses. So I'm like, right, I've got two choices. I can go for a drink, wait 20 minutes for the bus, get some hydration. I wasn't talking alcoholic drink, just something. Mm-hmm. And when 20 minutes is up, get my bus, go straight home. I'm like, or I could walk the little extra distance to this point on the map here where it says there's going to be a sooner bus. And that'll get me home even sooner. I was like, you know what? I really want to go home. I'm thirsty as all hell, but I really want to go home. I'm going to do it. 2 hours it took me to get a bus. Wandering around this town I didn't know. In the boiling hot sun. My bald head getting the most sunburn it's ever been in my life. I looked like a fucking traffic cone. 2 hours. And I didn't even get a bus back the way I came. I had to get a bus to somewhere else where I knew how to get a bus from there home.
I like the idea of some cop stopping you, like, son, are you all right? No, I'm pasty and British. I've been in the sun for an hour. Oh my god!
I like the idea. I like the idea that at the end of the interview, they were like, "He's pretty great. I'm going to get him the job." And then an hour and a half later, she's like, "Well, I'm off home. I'm going to call him when I get back." She drives past me, wandering the streets. Bro, I'm lost. I'm lost.
It's like, nope.
I wasn't even properly lost. I was almost entirely on the correct route home. The reason I got so stuck was the bus that brought me there and the bus that took me back is the same bus route, but it goes on a loop that intersects with itself, right? And I thought I'd gone onto the wrong part of the loop, and I hadn't. So I was basically following the bus route the same time, right, all the right way most of the time, but just misjudging repeatedly when was a good time to move on to the next stop, or if I was actually at a stop. And at one point, I waited at a bus stop for half an hour, right, for a bus that I was like, no, I'm staying here, I'm waiting, I'm going to get this bus. And it turned out to be a bus from the company I did not have a day ticket with that day, and I had no cash. So we had 2 hours to get on the bus home, and then another hour to actually get home. It was so terrible. And when I got back, I was like, I don't think I got the job, but honestly, I don't give a shit. Water. I had to sleep for 30 years now. I'm hot. I'm burnt. And I've been humiliated. It's all the worst things.
Hey, honey, how'd the interview go? I don't know why I have this image of you that's constantly weeping. It works for me.
So yeah, that was my interview day. For the people who want to know how my interview went, I will tell, to be totally positive about it, I think aspects of the interview went very well, and I didn't get an impression for them that they were like, well, why did you even bother? I just think I didn't have that specific stuff they were looking for, but it was kind of awkward for a little bit there. And oh my god, my head hurt when I got home. Fucking burnt.
So, speaking of troubling times, I myself have had a series of frustrations as of lately, solely brought on by myself and my own incompetence. As you know, I announced, was it last week or the week before, that I was going to do a series of Let's Plays for the Those Aren't Biscuits channel.
Yeah. How they come along? Tell us all about them. The first one should be up already, right? We should go there and watch them immediately.
No, you shouldn't. You should watch it as soon as this show is over. You should go watch one. So I decided I was going to do the DLC for Destiny. I thought, I can go and do I can do the vanilla campaign too, but really, I think everyone who might be interested in it has either already seen that or played it themselves. I mean, the same goes for the DLC too, because the DLC's been out forever, but it's a little bit newer content. And I'm like, all right, I'll just do that. I can probably get through it a little bit quicker. No big deal. So I get the recording set up. I'm good to go. I start recording, get everything done. I start mixing the audio with the gameplay, and I get it all set up, and I post it online. And within like an hour, I think I got a message from actually our good friend here in chat, or Chaos. He sent me a message. He goes, "Yeah, that audio is jacked." I was like, "Oh, well." He was much more polite than that, but that's basically what it was like.
What a message saying, "You fucking idiot."
You are a goddamn disgrace. No, what I had forgotten to do was actually lower the gameplay audio on the game, and I only recorded the audio track at kind of this like medium level, and even if I hadn't, I could have boosted the audio levels higher, but all that would have been then is just this. Like, it'd be the gameplay audio just booming, and then me yelling at you. That would have been the Let's Play. Like, so I basically said, I posted the first one. It's there now. I can't, I could remove it. Not going to. So you can go check it out. But all the other ones that I've recorded already are all trash. And, just to save myself from possibly going in there like, oh, maybe I can fix it, and spend 3 hours on it and not accomplish it, I just deleted it. I'm just like, gone. I just deleted the files. I deleted the audio tracks. I deleted everything. Like, just scorched earth policy. I'm like,
no!
There we go.
Like, picture like Slim Pickens in in Doctor Strangelove. Down below you is just Destiny videos and a descending on the bomb, Whee! Woo! Freedom!
So I did that, and so I'm thinking, okay, well, now I gotta start over. I will start out with the Taken King, all right, because I hadn't gotten into the Taken King stuff. So I actually sit down before getting ready for the podcast. I'm like, okay, well, I have like an hour. I can knock one of these videos out pretty quick. So I sit down.
John, you got an hour. You can knock one out.
Well, see, I did the video, and then I furiously masturbated, and then I got ready for the podcast. And I still had 20 minutes to spare.
Fair, it's better than you doing it during, like normal. I'm not even going to mock you for that.
So I sit down, and I play through the first mission, and have a good time with it. I thought, what I recorded was actually pretty good. Recorded is the key word, because when I went to stop the recording, the little symbol popped up that says, "You are now starting to record." And I was like, son of a bitch. I forgot to fucking hit record when I sat down to play. So that's another one. Gone. Just gone.
What you should do is you should get get yourself some sort of animation software like Flash or something, and just draw your experience, Just little doodles. Just be like, yeah.
Just a couple stick figures, and then like one of the stick figures has horns and wings. Just
right.
Like, I'm the Taken King. Oh no, it's the Taken King. I'm gonna take everything you have. No, don't take everything I have.
And then the rings of sand just like a little circle.
just, you must pay the rent, but I can't pay the rent. You must pay the rent, but I can't pay the rent. That made me laugh. I don't care. So I was like, okay, well, that frustration's done with. I'll try it again at another time. I still have some time before I had scheduled for the next one to come out anyways. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to get ready for the podcast. What can go wrong there? And I always, well, the thing is, when I make coffee, or get ready for the podcast, I always make coffee. I always make myself some coffee. So I throw the water in the coffee maker, and I throw the filter in, and I put the carafe back into it, and I hit the button, and I'm waiting for Owen to show up, and I'm like, oh, well, I'll go grab a cup of coffee right now while I'm waiting. I go over there, I look at the pot, and it's just a steaming it's clear steaming fluid in the carafe. I'm like, what the fuck now? Open up the thing. I forgot to put the damn coffee in the filter. It's like, what the hell? Like,
I do love how this has become a grumpy old men complaining at the modern world show. These are my favorite episodes.
I'm not even complaining at the modern world. I'm complaining at myself for apparently not understanding the modern world. Like,
I do also like my characterization of a coffee machine as some sort of way futuristic modern world invention.
It runs on some sort of power.
Electricity! Okay, and chat says, did somebody put a fish in your back seat too? No, that one's beyond me.
Is it what? You know what? I'm going to pause the show. We're not going to talk about anything else until Aura Chaos enlightens us with what? Like,
good.
Get it? Oh, okay. No, now I understand what he's saying. Yeah. You ever seen the movie Grumpy Old Men?
Oh, with Walter Matthau and what's his face in it?
Yeah, and Jack Lemmon.
Right.
Jack Lemmon. Yeah, okay. I know what he's talking about now.
The movie, wink wink, we couldn't get the rights for an Odd Couple sequel.
But they did.
But wink wink, this wasn't it.
I was about to say, like, they made an Odd Couple movie, like, after those movies. No, it's funny. That movie was actually filmed in a town not terribly far away from me.
That's not funny.
If you go there, there's still signs that say where Grumpy Old Men was filmed. Like, they are really hanging on to that.
And all the newcomers are like, whoa, the correct usage is whoa.
They're still filming. They never left. Both those actors are dead. Don't you fucking tell me. Okay.
I'm looking up now. It says, on the Wikipedia article, it says, this was the 6th film starring both Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau, and their first on-screen pairing since 1981's Buddy Buddy. What I like about this is if you look at the films they did together, hold on.
They're all pretty much the same.
Right, right. But look at the evolution that you have there, you know.
Mm-hmm. Got the Odd Couple.
Yeah.
Buddy Buddy.
Grumpy Old Man. Yeah.
Grumpy Old Man.
Grumpier Old Man. Right, are they going to...
Grumpier Old Man.
Was the one after this? We fucking hate each other. Please let us die.
The grumpiest old men.
Jack Lemmon's solo effort. Walter Matthau must die. If I can ever have inner peace.
It just has some like really like overly like artistic like names for a movie. It's just like Pinnacle, : if you pair me with Walter Matthau one more time, I'm going to fucking shoot the studio up.
2001's Jack Lemmon hit, I'm defiling Walter Matthau's grave. I didn't even realize Walter Matthau was dead. That's terrible.
But see, what you don't know is a little art house film that came right before that is Walter Matthau, I'm banging Jack Lemmon's wife.
Posthumously released.
Yeah.
with the subtitle, I'm dead, you'll never catch me.
I win, fucker.
Okay, it says, where my grandparents lived is a small town where a TV show was filmed, and for 2 decades they held on to that after the show was cancelled. I'd love it if it was one of those ones that went about 6 episodes before being taken off mid-season, you know, like... filming spot of the ABC hit Stink Bugs and the Women Who Love Them. I love how it doesn't matter what terrible show it is, what worthless claim to fame it is.
Right.
Some place will hold on to it, you know.
Home of the Women Who Love Stink Bugs fan base, the Stinkers. Just
Stinkers. Are you a stinker? You a stink? Everyone comes into town. Hey, buddy, you a stinker? Why do none of the tourists want to stay here?
I'm a stinker and proud of it. But what is it about?
Oh, so you're a fan of stink bugs and the women who love them. What? What's that
No,
then?
I just didn't shower.
Never heard of it. Huh.
But what is it about like fandoms that always have to have like these dumb names, right? Like you have the whole Trekkies or Trekkers.
Right.
You have,
See, that's such a weird one because there are vicious arguments against Trekkies or Trekkers, and you know what? I can say it right now. It should be Trekkies because Trekkers sounds idiotic. John's gone, everybody. He went to answer his phone.
No, I'm not.
He's never returned.
But yeah, okay, so you got the Trekkies and Trekkers, which is stupid either way. So your Doctor Who fans are the Whovians.
I hate that one.
Yeah. What else do we got? We have Harry Potter fans are Potterheads. Right? God, they're...
Do you think at every Potterhead convention there's always one guy that's like, pass the blunt, man. Like,
shows
no,
up dressed
Potterheads.
in red.
Alright, pass the wand.
Shows up dressed up in green, yellow, and red. Just like, just walks in, legalize. Over there with the Hufflepuffs, like really confused. Like,
no, I think the Hufflepuffs are down with it.
Ravenclaws are giving them some weird looks, but the Hufflepuffs, they're down.
The Ravenclaws keep tapping their feet, looking at the watches, getting into the rhythm of the clocks.
Right.
Aaron Critchley in chat says, don't get Potterheads and Potheads mixed up. Oh, no, you'd hate to do that. That could be a very humorous misunderstanding were someone to reference it in a podcast.
You know what? I think they should do it. Just one day, the Harry Potter convention, just fuck with people and then like post like flyers.
Legalize gillyweed.
Yeah, nothing but like dispensaries, just all over the place. So it's just like, you love it, we love it. Come, join the Potterheads. Like, fuck yeah, all right, I'm down. And just all these little kids in scarves and fake scars and glasses, just like, what's going on? This is the 28th time I've heard "No Woman, No Cry."
The 28th time. To be fair, though, when you play those songs in a loop, you can't really tell where they end.
Oh, no, it's funny that you say that. My parents actually went on their honeymoon in Jamaica. And to this day, if my mom hears "No Woman, No Cry," she gets pissed. She gets legitimately pissed. She's like, will you turn off that fucking song? Because apparently, all around the resort that they stayed at, they had these big bullhorns, like, on a post, you know, almost like, this is a bad analogy, but you've seen like movies set in the Middle East and they have like those like really tinny microphones that blast out like the daily prayers. Same sort of deal, except they play nothing but like Bob Marley songs the whole time. So she said that like from sun up to sundown, all it was Bob Marley, and "No Woman, No Cry" probably played at least 20 times a day.
I'd love that. I love that song. It's catchy.
So do I, but after so long, like, yeah. After so long.
No, John, you go check your texts. Have fun.
Shut up.
No, I don't need you here. No, it's fine. I'll carry this show myself.
Well, now you know what I feel like half the time.
Haha. Fuck you.
So that happened. I did do something else, but I can't fucking talk about it.
Good contribution then. We have another question in the chat that is from I'm Blast, who says, "What's up, guys? Are you Howard Stern fans? Are you a Howard Stern fan, John?"
No. I'm not.
Good topic for conversation. That really got us going.
Well, there was a time when I was a teenager where I was kind of into it, you know, where I was like, it was right when he had like the TV show,
right,
at the same time. So I would catch the TV show every once in a while, and I would get really into it. But as I've gotten older, I kind of gotten to the point where, like, I understand people having their shticks and adhering to it, but even people who have a shtick try to, like, elaborate on it over the years. They try to evolve, at least in small ways. He has not. Like, that show is almost exactly the same as it was 20 years ago. And it's just old now. Like the idea of some 60 or 70-year-old dude, like, just being lecherous to his guests that come on and like, "Oh man, did you have good tits?" Like, man, it's not real funny anymore, you know?
So for me, firstly, Howard Stern is very much an American figure, not a British one. And radio's like that, I think. It doesn't, aside from like drama, talk radio doesn't tend to leave its country of origin, even if it hits national. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure there aren't a lot of famous British radio personalities on in America either. You know what I mean? It just doesn't.
Maybe like Pierce Morgan. That's about it.
Right, and that's when he went to work in America, you know? So it's...
Right, exactly.
Right, so, I mean, Howard Stern is known over here because obviously he's so famous at this point, or was so famous by the late 90s, early 2000s that, you know, internet and everything, these things don't stay self-contained. I had not heard much of his show until relatively recently, actually, and I watched that movie he did, because it was on Netflix. What's it called? Private Parts. That's supposed to be like a biopic of his rise to fame. But part of the issue with that was, and I'll tell you something, I don't much care for the show. I get it, and I think there might be something to say for when you're in a period where people didn't talk like that in the radio, didn't talk honestly about stuff on the radio, or be controversial. There's an interesting story to being one of the early people who do it. I get that there's some value to that when it's transgressive. My opinion is it's not that transgressive anymore, and therefore not that interesting. Which is pretty much what you were saying. But I watched that movie, and there was something about that film that kind of bugged me, which is, that film is not always positive, right? Sometimes negative, sometimes positive. But when I'm one of those people who, if I watch a biopic, if I watch a film based on true events, I'm one of those annoying people who has to fact check it. So I always try and read. Often while I'm watching the film, I'll be like, did this actually happen? You know? And a lot of that film didn't actually happen, obviously. And it's not the stuff like, oh, he moved to such and such and they didn't like him there, and then he rose to fame and he quit this place. It's stuff like things that he says to his wife to get her on side about honesty, and things about principles, and things about when they split up and when they didn't split up and why they got back together. There's a lot of stuff in that. And he had full approval on that script, and he turned down a lot of scripts until he got one he liked. And there's lots of fictional scenes in it. And to me, it was the kind of mark of... To make a film like that that's like, okay, I'm just going to be brutally honest about my insecurities and my openness and what I want to do and how I'm misunderstood and how I'm not misunderstood and the type of person I am, and come to a resolution, and have all the relevant character motivating bits actually be total fiction, is to me slightly sinister. Not not in a massively harmful way, but in a sense that
Right.
it was such a manufactured product. Even though it was an interesting film, it makes me... and nobody would... This wouldn't be a controversial opinion of Howard Stern at all, I'm sure. But it makes me think the guy... It's not just about entertainment. It's totally self-serving and about preserving a very cultivated image. And I am wary of people who present... I'm not censored and I'm unscripted... when it's actually very controlled. And so...
To me, that movie actually plays into something that kind of bugs me. And I can't really think of too many recent examples, but it's that whole... We're going to make someone who isn't very savory as a person and try to make a movie about them that paints them a little bit better.
Except with Howard Stern, it's based on a book he wrote, and he's playing himself, so it's even weirder.
Right. Like, I was thinking of The People versus Larry Flynn.
Right. No, I think that's a really good example.
For those who don't know this movie, was about a guy named Larry Flynn who notoriously owns a magazine called Penthouse. I think, actually, he might be dead now, so I don't know.
I believe he is.
But he got into some trouble because he posted some cartoons or something in his magazine, specifically about was it a pastor or was it a senator? I think it was a senator. And the senator got upset and claimed defamation of character.
He is still alive, apparently.
Oh, huh. And took Larry Flynn to court about it, and became this big deal about freedom of speech and censorship and things like that. Which, fine, it's all fine and dandy. And in that sense, I kind of feel like, okay, maybe I could take Larry Flynn's side on it, because what's parody, what isn't parody, what's satire, what isn't satire. Those are things that are legitimate topics, and could have movies about them. But what the movie also did was painted Larry Flynn as like this hero of like the First Amendment, of like, if Larry Flynn wasn't there to make these cartoons, the whole American fabric would just fall apart.
Right.
But the truth is, like, this guy made his fortune with a magazine filled with raunchy, naked pictures of women, and some of them, are questionably of age. That was another issue that he had, like, when his magazine first came out. So this guy isn't exactly what you would consider a moral pinnacle, but for that one brief moment in his life, yeah, like, he found himself on like the right side of things,
right?
And they made a movie on that, and it definitely painted a picture of him that was not wholly representative of the whole of his work,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't see the point in doing sanitizing biopics that much. There's a really interesting film came out. I don't know if it was very big over here. It was over there. It was quite heavily promoted over here, and that was kind of a mistake because it's absolutely not the...
Is that the American Sniper?
No, I'm talking about totally different film. It's a film called Mr. Turner, and it's about the painter J.M.W. Turner. You know Turner? Okay. Are you familiar with his work? Beautiful painter. Mm-hmm. And this is a really interesting film because it makes no attempt to sanitize him at all. Like, it goes to great lengths to communicate the fact that it's very open about the fact that he abandoned his family and refused to acknowledge his wife and his kids. Now, obviously, Turner died in the 19th century, so it's it's far enough away that people can look at it historically. But it was interesting how it took all these famous facts and moments and scenes from his life and conversations and built them up without ever trying to portray him as a nice person, because apparently he wasn't. The only problem with the film is it's not a... It's weird because... Do you ever watch a film where you're like, I'm sure this is an amazing film, but I don't like it? It's one of the most beautiful films to look at. It's one of the most beautiful films to enjoy. And every individual scene is interesting. But because it's just trying to tell the story of his life, it doesn't actually try to put it into an overarching narrative. So you often feel like you're just watching vignettes, you know? For a really long time. It's like 3 hours long.
Yeah, like another weird thing about like biopics for me are when the biopic pick that's redundant.
The biopic pick.
The biopic like takes someone who has a legacy already, instead of utilizing the movie to show things that maybe people don't know and maybe have like a different idea about who the person was, the movie just kind of doubles down on like why they deserve the legacy. Like the Steve Jobs movies, they did touch on the fact that Steve Jobs kind of similarly did not acknowledge his children or his child and like first wife for a very long time.
Yeah.
And they touched on that in the movie, but then they just kind of like doubled down on this whole like even when like Steve like Wozniak, like supposedly his best friend, was like hey man, you know, maybe we should ease up on this. He's like, no, you're living in the past. I'm the visionary here, and I'm gonna keep going forward. And there's like multiple scenes of him on that fucking stage with the stupid fucking turtleneck.
Right.
And it's like, we don't need that movie. We don't need that movie telling us that Steve Jobs had some really crazy ideas and cool ideas when it came to technology. We need the movie, excuse me, that shows him being like a flawed human being. You know, that's the movie we need.
Yeah, they're always good in the beginning. Like even the Ashton Kutcher one, which is infinitely inferior to the Fassbender one.
Mm-hmm.
The opening of the Ashton Kutcher one's actually pretty good. When it's about how he's basically shitting on anybody to get a company established, you know?
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. I mean, Jobs is an interesting figure anyway, because he's not that nice.
Okay. And I would say of all the biopic films out there, I think maybe one of the better ones recently has been The Social Network.
Right. I haven't seen that one yet.
I have not seen the whole thing because I got interrupted while I was watching it. But for what I saw, they don't go out of their way to try to make Zuckerberg's character likable at all. Like, he's an asshole. And kind of similarly to like the Larry Flynn thing, it just so happened that in the situations presented, he found himself on the right side of things. But they don't paint him out as the hero. They paint him out as an asshole who fucking lucked into a right situation. Like,
yeah. They can be tough to get right. I think the biopic, the one that really stands out for me is probably the best one, is the Robert Downey Jr. Charlie Chaplin film. You ever seen that?
Yes. No, I haven't actually.
It's really worth checking out.
No, I haven't.
Directed by Richard Attenborough. Funnily enough.
No relation.
No, the actual Richard Attenborough.
Right.
And it's really fantastic. Partly because Robert Downey Jr. was a great actor even then. But also it doesn't... what it does is it combines two biographies. It combines the biography that Charlie Chaplin wrote himself, and it combines a biography written by someone else about his life, and it tries to form a story from that works, that is open about it, and it has a really great framing narrative. That the framing narrative to this is that Charlie Chaplin, as an old man, is discussing with his publisher the manuscript he submitted for his autobiography. So periodically, it'll cut back to this framing narrative when I think it's Anthony Hopkins who's playing the editor will say, "Well, you haven't really mentioned this, you know, or you haven't really talked much about this period in your life, you know." And he'll say, "No, I don't really want to because it was horrible." And then it'll switch to source material from the other autobiography, you know. And at times it will acknowledge. He'll say something like, "I don't want to talk about that," and so you'll get a gap that in the film is acknowledged that it's information we don't have. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's really good. It tells a really fantastic story of a man from his youth to his adulthood and the complications of his life in different ways. It's a really, really great, really, really, really great film. I really recommend it. Actually, I would recommend it to anyone, but I think it's probably which is one of my best films. One of my favorite films. One of my best films. I made it, don't you know? One of my absolute favorite films.
I'm Richard Attenborough. We got a quick question on topic here from I'm Blazed something. Are you guys going to watch the Tupac movie, All Eyes on Me? I would like to, actually. I do have a not so much secret, but I have an appreciation for that kind of that 90s gangster rap stuff, and I wanted to see Straight Outta Compton. I just haven't got around to that yet, but I want to see that one too, because it was a really interesting time for music. I mean, say what you will about rap and hip hop, it's synonymous with popular music these days. Like even traditional pop songs all have hip hop influences now.
Right.
But there was a time in that early 90s era, that late 80s, early 90s era, where rap and hip hop was taboo. It was dangerous. It was what you listened to when your parents weren't around. And that sort of era is fascinating with me. And it was the Wild West for these guys. Like we were talking about people who became incredibly rich very fast on a music that the mainstream media didn't want to acknowledge. So they kind of had the best of both worlds, where they can kind of just do what they want, and there's no criticism from the people who mattered, because it would be an acknowledgement that they were part of a movement. I mean, there were some issues with like Tipper Gore and Senate stuff, but I mean, at the end of the day, what Congress says about something, people don't give a shit. And then you had all the controversies coming up with the feuds. You had Dr. Dre and Eazy-E feuding and things turning violent at times, and then the famous one, Tupac and Biggie, which sparked the whole East Coast West Coast feud, where people straight up died because of this. And I think that's a story that I'd like to see cinematically,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
I'm probably not going to see it.
Well,
that was initially
quick,
my answer, but I figured the longer I let you go, it's just not. I don't know anything about Tupac, and I know it seems silly, but it's just not something I know anything about, or even that genre of music. It feels worlds away from me, which is probably just me being very privileged and white and stuff. But you know what I mean? It's just something I've never really been interested in. Nothing personal. There is a follow-up question that was, and do you like or have you watched any films / biopics on rappers like 8 Mile or Get Rich or Die Trying? No, I haven't, but 8 Mile isn't a biopic, isn't it? I have seen 8 Mile. It's just a movie.
It's a movie that was supposed to be loosely based on Eminem's early
days. It's pretty loose.
It's very loose. It's kind of, it follows the same framework. White guy living in trailer park, rough part of Detroit, good at rapping, gets recognition, and goes forward. The truth about his life is it follows the same pattern, but there's many more events that happen that aren't in that movie. So I don't think it's fair to call that a biopic. Get Rich or Die Trying, I did see. I thought it was kind of terrible, because it was another one of those biopics where it was clear that 50 Cent had way too much involvement with it, and at no point in that movie do you go, oh, maybe you're not such a good guy, or he is portrayed as a hero through that whole thing. Even when he's doing, like, there's a scene where he's doing, like, dealing drugs, but even that kind of paints him as like I just got to get by, like, what am I going to do? I got to feed myself and sort of things. Yeah, I don't think that's a very good movie.
Well, fair enough.
But
I saw a movie.
What I do think is a good movie. All right, is a movie I saw yesterday.
We're going to see it this week. You can't say anything we're going to talk about next week's. All right.
All right. No, I'm
going to go see it this week. I saw a movie I want to talk about, but I don't know. Well, we're at an hour and a half. Should we finish up and I can bump this to next week too, or should we keep going? You choose. I don't mind.
You can finish talk about this, and then we'll be good to go.
This is not going to be too long because I don't want to do any spoilers, but I can really recommend everybody go see the movie Get Out, because it's honestly fantastic. It's one of the best horror films I have ever seen. I know we've talked about you don't really like horror, but I would recommend seeing it anyway. Like, it's mostly jump scares for you, right?
Yeah, jump scares get me.
There is
and not in a good way.
There is one moment in this film you could consider to be a jump scare, and it's only a very... It's like... Okay, you know what? I'll tell you exactly the type of jump scare it is, without any spoilers, and you can tell me if you can tolerate it. Yeah. You know the one where someone will be walking towards the camera, and then behind them, someone will go across the corridor the other way?
Yeah.
It's that one, and it's once.
Oh, okay.
You will get through this movie. It's not about jump scares at all. It's much more about...
It's more like a psychological horror, right?
Well, it does get a bit more... I don't want to spoil anything. The longer it goes, it's a comedy horror as well. It's a horror comedy.
Here's the thing. I have had this movie kind of spoiled for me already. So
okay, but I don't want to spoil it for the people at home either, because it's awesome. But it's... The longer it goes, the more it... I don't want to say it gets outlandish, but it does get outlandish, but it holds onto it well. But what it does early on that is so... Here's a good example. It's not like this film at all, because even though it is mildly a comedy, it's not overtly comedic. But you know how in Shaun of the Dead... You've seen that movie, right? You know how much of the humor in that movie comes from the fact that normal things are shot like a horror film? So they do like the jump cuts when characters appear and things like that, but they're just coming to talk about inviting someone over for dinner and things like that.
Right.
This film is a little bit similar in that it's very much about making things that seem mundane and innocent and would be normal and not threatening and oppressive and frightening. And so there aren't a lot of scares and not a lot of violence to it until pretty near the end. And yet there's this tone right from the start of fear that is really fantastic. Just to go into it a little bit, it's about a guy, a black guy, dating a white woman, who is not... Normally that's not relevant, but it is very relevant to this movie, so I had to specify. Getting all my protection in early there.
Well done.
It's a black guy dating a white woman. He's going to meet her parents for the first time, and he's concerned because he doesn't know if her family know that he's black. And she thinks he's being kind of silly, and that why would that be an issue? And he's like, you know what? You haven't seen it from my side. It could be an issue even if you don't think it will be. But she assures him her family is not even remotely racist. They're all going to have a wonderful time. And they start to drive south, and they go to visit the family in the country. And as soon as they're kind of out of the city, and he goes to this part of the country where he's out of his home territory, this feeling of being an outsider starts to build, and this feeling of tension. Now, I am one of the most white people on the planet, so I can't speak to the experience of black people at all. But what this film kind of does really well is it makes being a black person around white people feel threatening in a film. Like, just watching it as a white person, you are immediately aware, because of the direction and because of the tone of the film, that this guy's in trouble. And yet...
Right. Before you go any further, just real quick, now the bits I do know about this movie, what's kind of interesting about the racial tension is it's not, correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's not the typical, oh, we're going to the South where, it's overt racism,
no.
White. No, it's liberal racism.
Right, without getting too much into this, what it is the thing to be afraid of, the fear that comes from this in this movie is not rich white people who don't like black people. It's rich white people who like black people a little bit too much, with, for a long time, no explanation as to why. And the interesting thing about and I really recommend you watch this film, even if you've already had it spoiled, it's kind of amazing. It builds up this strange tension where, like, when he first meets his girlfriend's father, he takes him away to have a conversation about how uncomfortable it makes him that he's a rich white guy with black servants. And he's very open about it.
Right.
But you know that it's weird, and it's mostly direction, but you know that this behavior is in some sense threatening. And so the whole first 2/3 of the film, what's really amazing about it is, you know he's in danger, you know that there is a threat coming, you know that he has to be afraid, and that the reason he has to be afraid is because he is black, and you don't know why.
There's kind of a term for what is presented in this movie, and this is an actual term here. I'm not trying to be anything, but the term's called negrophilia.
Right.
It's the idea of like an obsession over the accomplishments and the things produced by black people and black people themselves.
Right.
And while that might sound like a positive thing, the issue with it comes from it's another way to not acknowledge them as people. They're simply producers of things that you like. So that's kind of, from what I understand, kind of a big deal about this movie.
Yeah, and it's fascinating. But the thing is, that in itself would be interesting in a very serious drama film. But then to use it to make entertaining horror that is still frightening and gripping, even if you aren't black, is a really fascinating achievement, you know? I can't remember watching a film like it. It's pretty remarkable. And it's interesting because this actor, funnily enough, he's a British actor. It was another situation of having to adjust to watching someone whose voice I know in an American film. But he is one of my favorite actors on British TV. He doesn't come up a lot, but when he comes up, he's always really memorable. And I've completely forgotten his name because it would be the worst possible time to do it. But it's really worth watching. I don't want to talk about it too much because, like I say, spoilers will ruin it for other people. But it's really worth watching just to take on, just to see something so perfectly realized. And it's absolutely what you're saying. It makes total sense because what the film tries to communicate is fear of something that seems to be well-intentioned and benign. And that's right. It's so well done. It's just one of the best films I've ever seen, I think. And I'm one of those people, I don't like horror films in general. I won't watch a lot of them. But every so often you get one of those that transcends genre, and it's a really unique experience to see that. They're always good. Those few horror films that just step out from the lineup, you know.
Right. And yeah, and you're kind of not alone when you say that. That this movie's gotten just a ton of praise and very groundbreaking in terms of like industry standards.
Wouldn't it be great though if all the praise was just white people being like, look at what these black people look what these sweet little black people did.
It's kind of interesting you say that because there is a lot about that, and I think some people have actually commented on it. Is that one of the key themes of the movie is currently happening to Jordan Peele, the writer and director of this movie. Oddly enough, because there's a lot of been talk like, oh, it was the biggest opening weekend for a black director ever, and a lot of talk
and
like
good
that,
for
which I think
you.
is a lot of I think is kind of ironic. But yeah, no, I do want to see the movie. Even with the horror, I did kind of want to check it out, mostly because I've been hearing a lot of good things about it. And then I did watch a video on YouTube from Wisecrack, which is kind of like my go-to channel recently. I really love everything they do. And they did this whole video on the philosophy behind Get Out. And it's... if I was you, I would check that video out because they point out some things in it that you kind of have to have a very keen eye to notice. Some symbolism stuff and
yeah. Well, I might.
So yeah,
I'm gonna watch it again, and I'm at that age now where I don't normally rewatch films. Like when you're a kid, you'll watch a film like over and over again, you know.
Right.
I'm getting to the point now where I'm like, there's not enough time in my life to watch a film more than once. What is it about? Okay, got it. But this, I'm actually going to watch it again. I'm trying to convince Beth to watch it, but she's not a huge fan of horror films either. I'm trying to convince her also that for the most part, it's worth it. The other film that was like that is, did you ever see that film, The Babadook?
No, but that's another one I heard a lot about where the appeal of the movie isn't the horror aspects, it's the subtext.
Yeah. And then, of course, the other groundbreaking horror film that they're all going to be talking about is Tom Cruise's The Mummy that's just going to break down genres. And it's a really weird approach for that film, isn't it? Because it looks very much like, even though it's kind of actiony, it looks like the kind of tone they're going for is a revival of the old Universal horror franchise, you know, like the old Mummy franchise. But these days, when you say we're making a remake of The Mummy, most people are going to be thinking like Brendan Fraser, right?
Right. And here's the really kind of funny thing about that. There was a extended trailer for that movie in front of the movie that shall not be named, and it seems like they were trying harder to push the idea, like, no, there's still humor in this, guys. Like,
yeah,
there's a little, that trailer was very joke heavy
because the other trailers have been very very dour, you know.
Yeah, spooky. And but yeah, that I am actually kind of interested in what are they calling now, the dark universe, right?
Well, sorry, no, Karen, I didn't mean to interrupt.
It's funny because it was even in the trailer. It was just like come witness the beginning of a dark universe, you know. And but in case no one knows, that's what they're calling this new joined universe.
Yeah, because everyone wants a movie universe now. Everyone wants a shared universe.
Right.
But it's interesting
because
because
the Mummy.
Sorry, there's this PSN slight delay. It's interesting because if you look at the original Universal horror movies, right, they actually had a shared universe, a little bit like the Avengers, kind of more unintentional. But, you know, they started off with the early ones, you know, Frankenstein, Dracula, the Invisible Man, the Mummy, right? And then eventually they had, you know, Wolfman versus Frankenstein, and you know what I mean? And they would get
right
more and more and more crossovers and things like that in individual stories. And so the idea of actually trying to revive that for a modern shared universe is, to me, inherently interesting because I love those movies. but you know they're going to be terrible.
Right. Well, and here's kind of the funny thing about them is that I can't remember everything that's supposed to be included in it now, or what's been announced, but it's definitely the Mummy, and originally it was supposed to be that Dracula Untold movie, but they scrapped that. They're saying that's not part of it anymore, which is weird because that movie didn't do terribly. It actually made some money. So it's weird that they decide, mostly because it starred the guy from Game of Thrones. But so that's gonna be. But they also announced earlier that not just their big blockbuster movies are gonna be part of this universe, but they also have like this group of small studios that kind of make direct-to-DVD movies and like B movies.
Oh God,
they're all going to be part of it too.
Hey, I like everybody comes up with an idea of copying the Marvel thing, but with some really stupid twist. Like with DC, it was like, well, we're gonna follow what they've done, but the second movie in our franchise is gonna be the Avengers with all our characters in. The movie 2. And then movie 3 will be Guardians of the Galaxy and have completely new characters in, but also be an ensemble, right? And then who else has got a shared universe? The Godzilla ones were like, we're gonna do it, but we're gonna make one movie, and then you're gonna have to wait a really, really, really long time for the next, and then you're gonna have to wait a really,
it wasn't
really
that long.
Oh come on, Godzilla! It was a lot longer than Iron Man to Incredible Hulk. You know what I mean?
Was it?
Yeah.
When did the Godzilla come out?
Godzilla, I mean, Skull Island... Is Skull Island out yet? It's just come out, right?
It's been out.
Godzilla came out 2014, so we're talking 3 years.
Okay, fair enough.
And then this one's like, okay, we're going to do a shared universe, but it's going to be half blockbusters, half shit. There you go.
Like, I wonder if it's them trying to acknowledge the history, though. We're like... You know,
because there were reruns on cable channels for years. Therefore, that should be the destiny of our future movies.
Right. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe it'll work out for them.
Because nothing spells quality like straight to DVD. It's interesting though because
Eric Roberts has made a career on it.
It's interesting because, like, okay, that Dracula movie's out, but there'll be another Dracula movie in it, right? Absolutely. No way. Sure. Right? Which means we're also going to get all the usuals. I guarantee we're going to make a Frankenstein, obviously. That's got to happen, right?
Well, my question is, like, why... So, okay, does...
Yeah?
Like, does... all right, so does Universal still own the rights to most of these movies? That's the question. Like,
well, they don't need the rights for most of them because most of the books are public domain, right? Dracula, Frankenstein, Invisible Man, the Mummy is a generic concept. You know what I mean? They don't need the rights for the most part, but they do have the rights to some very specific things, which is they own that Dracula look and they own that Frankenstein look. So my interesting question is, when they make a Frankenstein movie, is he gonna be, like, flat-headed with the bolts?
Well, okay, do you remember the Aaron Eckhart movie? The I, Frankenstein?
Oh my god. I watched that film. I love Frankenstein, right? It's a guilty pleasure, but you don't get a lot of good Frankenstein movies. So when that Frankenstein movie came out, I watched it. And it's one of those films where, like, it's so rare. It's that really, really rare film of a movie where you can be right up to the last minute and still not believe how bad it's got. Like, as it just rolls by, you just think, and now this is happening. And they did not market that movie at all like it is. They did not tell you what that film was going to be like at all.
It almost looked more like Hellboy to me, where it was all like in the marketing, it was like, oh, we needed a monster to fight monsters. You know? That's what all the marketing sounded like to me, you know?
Right. When you actually see it. It feels like Underworld, I think, in practice.
Oh, good. Another one of fucking franchises that needs to die.
Have you seen I, Frankenstein?
No. But then they also made that Victor Frankenstein movie too.
Right, I always confuse those.
Harry Potter and
they make
Charles Xavier.
They make a lot of Frankenstein movies, and they are all terrible. Have you ever seen the Roger Corman Frankenstein movie? It's amazing.
No.
It's called Frankenstein Unbound, right? John Hurt is a scientist from the year 2031, right? And he drives around.
God.
He drives around in a solar-powered talking car. That's it's a little bit like Kip from Knight Rider, but it's got a woman's voice and it's got like the internet in it, basically, right?
Okay.
And he's working on a weapon so powerful that it will end all war, right? But
And
unfortunately, the first time he tests it, it sends him back in time to Switzerland in the year 1817, where he
Oh, for God's sakes.
where he is so amazing. It's so amazingly bad, but it's so amazing. Where he meets Victor Frankenstein, and he basically it's kind of like Tag and Bink. He sort of encounters Frankenstein from the outside while he's just dicking around with his talking car. But he also sort of over the course of things becomes more and more important to the story. So like he is ultimately the one who's trying to destroy it while Victor Frankenstein gives up. He basically gets sent to the future. He sends the monster, from Victor Frankenstein and himself to the future, which has been destroyed by his own weapon, and they just run around in the snow at the end. It's really weird. One of the strangest films I've ever seen, and yet it's sort of unforgettable. You're like, okay, the Frankenstein with the talking car, fair enough.
Oh, man. God, there has been a lot of Frankenstein movies now that I think about it.
Yeah, none of them good.
I don't know, wasn't that De Niro one alright?
Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. I'm not a big fan of that. It's tries to be very close to the book, but it's not a great film. I don't think it's okay. I suppose. I liked Frankenhooker. Remember that one? It's a terrible movie. Don't watch it.
It's in your fridge right now, right?
Then there's that one. What was it called? Frankenstein Goes to College, where they feed it Reese's Pieces because they saw it on ET. Remember that one?
No.
What was that one about?
I imagine Frankenstein going to college when they feed him Reese's Pieces because they remember E.T.
That's pretty much it. Oh, I found it. Frankenstein Goes to College. Frankenstein Goes to Jamaica. Is it the sequel? Oh, no. It was called Frankenstein The College Years. It was a TV movie from 1991. So you know it's good.
Yeah. It has a 91 TV movie seal of approval.
Directed by Tom Shadyac. Why do I know that name? He directed Bruce Almighty. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Hi. Did you think on the set he was like, I don't have to put up with this shit, Jim Carrey. I directed Frankenstein The College Years.
You listen to me, you son of a bitch. Just...
Oh my god. Okay, this is what he directed. Listen to this. Listen to this resume. This resume of glory. 1991, Frankenstein, The College Years. 1994, Ace Ventura, Pet Detective.
Okay.
1996, The Nutty Professor. 1987, Liar Liar. He directed all these. This is why I know this name.
Right. Okay, yeah.
1998, Patch Adams.
Okay.
2002, Dragonfly. Don't know that one. 2003, Politically Incorrect. 2003 also, Bruce Almighty. 2007, Evan Almighty. And 2010, a documentary called I Am. Director Tom Shadyac speaks with intellectual and spiritual leaders about what's wrong with our world and how we can improve both it and the way we live in it. So, Tom Shadyac's career went to the dizzying heights of Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, and the terrifying lows of Frankenstein, The College Years.
The funny thing is that most of those 90s films that you listed, I actually enjoy. Like, as stupid as those movies are, like, Ace Ventura is kind of a classic.
No, do you know what? I'm with you on a few. I think Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, the first one, is all right.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Nutty
Liar,
Professor.
Liar's funny.
I think the Nutty Professor's okay. The first one.
Yeah.
Liar, Liar, I like. It's terrible, but I like it. It's when we get to Patch Adams, I think it goes a little.
Patch Adams was like, hey guys, I can do a serious movie. No, you can't. All right, meet me halfway. I'm gonna make a serious movie about the nature of healthcare and why insurance companies suck. Starring Robin Williams. All right.
I can't believe I remembered that film, that TV movie, after years without being able to remember it, and never looked it up. And it's directed by the guy who directed Patch Adams.
All right. I'm looking at the chat here, and I do not see any new questions.
All right.
So,
I guess it's time for us to finish up then.
Yeah, want to see us out.
I will indeed see us out. Thank you very much for watching. You've been watching that wonderful show, the podcast, that you all know and love, Those on Biscuits. I have been Owen Adams, and with me has been Jonathan Cadotte. You can find me by going to my YouTube channel at youtube.com/Owen Adams. And where can they find you, John?
They can find me on Twitter, which is @JohnCPerson. You can go to my blog, johncperson.wordpress.com. And you can follow the show directly, which is @NotBiscuits. You can email the show, which is notbiscuits@gmail.com. And, yeah, check out the new Let's Play that's going to be on the Not Biscuits channel.
Yeah, because he's already told you how much work he's putting in.
Turned out.
How good it's going.
Yeah, please, for love of God, make this worth something for me. Like, if you don't watch those Let's Plays, you're damning me to another night at the strip club. That's what you're doing, all right? Please don't do that to me.
Only this time he's going to be on the stage.
Yeah, gotta make my money somehow. All right. Y'all have a good one.
Bye-bye.